Good morning, YouTube. Thanks so much for coming back to the channel. It's Mike, the broker builder here. Man, I'm super excited. I'm up here at the investment camp in North Florida, and we're gonna get this cabin started today. It's been a long 2 years already. Embarking on this project and buying the land and just coming up in my spare time, but I'm really starting to see some of the fruits of labor now to build this property for my family and my daughter to come to for years after I'm gone. So, man, the sun is shining. It's blue skies. It just warmed up to a little over 50, and I'm super excited to get to work today. Let's do it.
All right, friends, I wanted to jump to the plans really quickly because I know some of you guys are visual learners, and it's going to, I think, really help you understand what I'm doing in this video. This is my foundation plan, and I'll get more into this on the next video when I dig the footers. You can see the footers here. But for now, what I'm trying to do is just lay out a location, a square location. I know it looks like a rectangle, but square meaning that, it's exactly the same triangle on both ends here. So I'm basically cutting and installing batter boards, which are basically a temporary frame. They're set beyond the corners of any planned foundation, and the whole purpose is to hold layout lines so that you have a level line and you can get your measurements. And so, really, what I'm doing is I'm laying them out diagonally on all the corners, just like this, and you'll see in the video. And the reason I'm doing them diagonally is because A, I have the lumber, and B, then it's easier. It's easier because then I can string the batter boards long enough diagonal that I can go ahead and string a line this way and string a line this way. If these were really short, they wouldn't be long enough to string a line this way and a line this way, because when you adjust, they have to move, and you ought to have a lot of room to play here. A lot of people will set up a batter board this way and a batter board over here, so two separate ones. In my opinion, it's just a lot more extra work, but in any case, I just want to jump to this, and thanks for sticking with me. We're going to get to the action, but I just want to show you guys this because I know some of you are visual learners. All right.
All right, friends, I've got the cabin laid out the best I can. It's off a few inches, but it's just because I've got probably up about 18 inches in the back there, and it's just tough with these long tape measures. Until you get your batter board set up and get them leveled, you're not gonna be able to get completely accurate. But in any case, we've got to have a rough idea where we're at. You can see my front corner there is pinned, the back corner pinned, the other back corner pinned, and then the other front corner pinned. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the high spot, the highest corner. I'm gonna start there, which is back here, and I'm gonna set up the batter board because we can always bring the other batter boards up if we need to. You can't bring them down if you got to come down. In other words, if you start at the lowest corner, you wouldn't want to go digging into the ground to get your batter board down. That wouldn't make any sense. So again, this is gonna be the highest corner back here. We're gonna start here, and then we'll get this thing accurately set up and strung, and then we can start marking the 15 footer pads. All right, let's do it.
All right, friends, the first thing that I had to do was I had to find some lumber for my batter board stakes and my batter board. I had some old 2x6 laying around, and the nice thing about being in construction is you normally do have some lumber laying around, and even if you don't, it's not like you have to run out and buy this stuff. Usually you can find fairly junky lumber online for free and at marketplace for a real discount and that sort of things. You don't need something super fancy, although your batter boards, you do kind of have to make sure at least the batter board is straight. The stakes aren't important, but in any case, you'll see me ripping these 2x6s down, and you notice that I flipped it over. I don't have an outfeed table, and nobody here to help me this particular time, so I just went about halfway down and then flipped the board, made the rest of the cut. Now, I could have went ahead and cross-cutted these in half because I'm going to do that anyways when I'm using these for stakes. might have been a little bit easier on the rip side, but I probably would have had to flip it anyways, even when I cut them, because these stakes are pretty tall. In this case, I've got some low corners, and you'll see that later. I've got my battery power Milwaukee table saw there, and if you guys watched my van build video, I kind of explained to you how I went from, big bulky table saws and miter saws to these small battery ones. I can lift them in and out. I've got my trusty table saw, which I love. I always link those at the bottom of the videos, and I always talk about them, but just awesome tables. Perfect for these small saws. And then I'll link the saw down below, but you can see this is making easy work of this Southern Yellow Pine 2x6. I know other guys are going to say, well, the battery runs out quick, and it's going to be tough to, cut dense wood and things like that. The reality is, these are job site saws. You're going to be cutting dimensional lumber. It's highly unlikely you're going to be cutting any kind of 5/4, 6/4, solid oak or anything like that on this. So they've been awesome for me, and there's no way I'd go back to big, bulky saws taking up all kinds of room in your van or trailer and that sort of thing. So in any case, just want to point that out again. And we're going to need 2 stakes at each corner. I'm going to run my batter boards diagonal, as you'll see, because if you have long enough batter boards, you can not have to have 2 separate ones at each side like some builders do. But if you got long enough batter boards, you just run them diagonal, and you're good to go for length and width strings. And so let's move on. All right, everyone. I've got some stakes here on the work table, and I'm just finishing them up. If you notice, I have different clothes on than my intro video. It's because this was the next day, and my favorite time in Florida when it's cold for maybe 4 weeks out of the entire year, but I think it was barely 35 degrees here, and just loving working outside. But in any case, I'm cutting some angles on the ends of these 2x6s. And then you'll see me go ahead and rip some down so that I can pound them into the ground. Trying to pound a 2x6 into the ground is just not going to work. And you'll see here in a minute that I'm taking 2 of these and putting them at each corner of the cabin. Again, we're going to run our batter boards diagonal so that we can run a line for length. Run a line for width. And again, just wanted to mention, guys and gals, if you are not experienced in working with a table saw, they are very, very dangerous. I think it's 100,000 people a year or something like that get injured and cut their fingers off a year. And not lecturing, just, if you're going to use these small table saws and things like that at the job site where you may not have completely even ground and things like that, just be really careful. And make sure you understand how common injuries happen, kickback, and that sort of thing. You can watch tons of videos on YouTube, and just recommend you do that before you do mess with a table saw. That's it. All right, friends. Here you can see this is actually going to be the front right corner of the cabin. I already set up the highest corner that's in the back right. And what I'm doing here, and apologize, I did not record setting up my rotary laser level. Excuse me. I use the Bosch, which I feel is a great tool for the price. They've got the Stabilas and things like that, but honestly, the Bosch is perfect, and it's mid-level priced, and so that's what I use. But I'll link it below as well. And what I'm doing right here is just trying to get a mark on the bottom of my level once I hit the line. The rotary laser level, it basically spins a laser line around the whole job site in a circle. And then the receiver on the stick there, once it hits the laser light, you'll hear a beep. And then I'm going to mark the bottom of the stick is going to be where the height that I set the other one. So what I'm doing is I'm setting all of the batter boards to the correct height so that they're level. Because again, if you have a high corner and a low corner, and you try to string a line along there, it's not going to give you an accurate measurement. The line has to be level when you measure it. And so that's what I'm doing here. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to use the lines I made with the laser level, and I'm going to screw my batter board to those lines. And if I've done it correctly and I put my laser level receiver back up there, you should hear the beep at the top, which tells you I did everything correctly. And we're good to go.
All right, guys, I got all my batter boards set up, and I got them shot with the rotary laser. And as you can see, we're really high up on, let me kind of stand back to the side and I can kind of show you. I knew that that was going to be my high corner there, because you can see how much higher we are down here and here. Now, if I would have had this to do over, I would have probably started that high corner down a little bit lower. But that's fine. We'll drop a plumb bob when we get these strung and make sure we're in the right spot. It's no big deal. So got all the batter boards up. I'm gonna go ahead and lay this thing out with some basic mason string. Let's do it. All right, guys, I just went and grabbed my 6-foot level. And in theory, if this laser level was doing its job, these batter boards should be dead level. And you know, sometimes this stuff plays tricks on your eyes. And so if you think maybe something's off, just go ahead and check it. All right, let's do it. We'll switch hands here. Boom. Guys, it just doesn't get much better than that. All right. Moving on, we're gonna go ahead and string this thing up. Hey, what's up, guys? All right, it is Thursday morning and it's 35 degrees here in Florida, and I would love to stay in the camper and hang out, but I got to get to work. So gonna be a little chilly this morning, but I spent all day yesterday, and I don't know if you can see all these lines. Hopefully you can. But I spent all day getting this cabin laid out and getting ready to mark the footers. And what happened was I was ready to pull my hair out for about 3 hours. I created my triangle over here, and what happened is when I calculated the hypotenuse, which was accurate, I came up with 40.311 feet. But when I converted the 0.311 on my construction calculator, so I could get a more understandable measurement on the tape, I used inches instead of feet. So it basically gave me a hypotenuse of, I was about 3 3/4 inches short. And so I kept getting 2 different hypotenuses during my final measurements, and I just could not figure out what the hell happened. I did the measurements 100 times, but I didn't think about using inches instead of feet on that small calculation. And what happened is I actually ended up getting my father-in-law on the line and going over everything with him, and he caught my mistake. I knew I had to get another eyes on it because mathematically it just couldn't add up, and I just wasn't understanding what I was doing. So I was about 5 inches off on the second hypotenuse. So anyways, I'm gonna fix that right now, and what's gonna end up happening is this corner here is gonna be adjusted, which is then gonna fix that corner, and we should be good to go here. And then I'll go ahead and finish marking these. All right, my friends, that's going to conclude this video, and on the next one we're going to be digging the footers. Super excited. I'm going to show you what the engineer recommended for footers, and I'm also available for consultations through the mobile app MINNECT, MINNECT. You just go ahead and download it to your phone, search for my name, Michael Perry. You'll see the broker builder logo, and you can get questions answered, something as simple as an email. You can also schedule 15-minute increments through video call with me if you need consulted on something. If you haven't seen the video I did, excuse me, on the spec home budget, it's one of my most popular videos, and I give away the AIA spreadsheet in there, and some people have consulted me on that. So if you need help with anything, guys, on the construction side or the brokerage side, maybe you're trying to interview real estate brokers and you're not sure who to go with, I'll give it to you real. Been doing it for over 20 years. And again, thank you so much for sticking with me to the end. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave me a comment. Thanks so much. Take care.